Welcome everybody, welcome. My name is Dan Alexandrowitz. I'm president of Bonnie and Clyde's. We have been doing these winter seminars now for 44 years. My parents started this company in 1979, and we have done these winter seminars every year since we opened. Obviously, you can see the people that showed up today. I'm not retiring early by doing these seminars. We do these seminars because we want to make pool ownership just as easy for you as we possibly can. So we want to save you time in Winterize, and we want to save you money, because if you winterize properly, you're not going to have to come in and spend money on new equipment next year like many, many people will, okay? So I appreciate that. I want to welcome you to this seminar. I want to welcome you to the first day of fall as well, too. I don't know if you knew today's first day of fall. I woke up this morning and I could just feel the weather, and I was like, nothing's changed. 98 degrees today, first day of fall, September 23rd. Unbelievable. Which brings me to the first two questions people always ask about winterizing. When do we winterize, and how long does it take? When we go to winterize, okay, we want to set aside, well, when we winterize, we want the water temperature to be 70 degrees and dropping, okay? So you can't do it yet. The water's still too warm. No matter what chemicals you put in, it will still grow bacteria and algae. So we got to let the water temperature drop. It may seem like that's never going to happen this year, but normally second, third week in October, we will get some nights down to the 40s and 50s. And when that happens, that water temperature drops pretty quick. So usually by the end of October, we can get these pools winterized, okay? How long does it take to winterize these pools? You want to set aside 2 different days to do it. And not because it takes 48 hours of toil to winterize your pool, but you want to have 1 day to do the housekeeping, vacuuming, chemical additions. You want to be able to run the pump and filter at least 12 hours after you have added your chemicals. So then the next day or a few days later, then you can go out and do the cover and all that kind of stuff. So 2 days to do it, okay? That first day, now, if you guys have, I'm going to separate this into sections, and then I'll ask if you have questions. So if you'll hold them to the end of these sections, that would be helpful for our cameraman back there, okay? Now, the first day is really all the stuff you've been doing all summer long. Vacuum the pool is your very first step. Get the debris off the bottom. You don't have to get every speck of dirt and sand off the bottom of the pool. I'm not too worried about that. Just make sure you pay attention to the leaves. Get the leaves out of that pool. The leaves will break down in the water over the winter. They can actually stain the vinyl of your pool. So get the leaves out, get as much out as you can, okay? The other thing that you may want to pay attention to it before you winterize the pool is that water line, the bathtub ring that you may or may not have. A lot of you are new pool owners. You may not have any issue with that. But if you do, you want to clean that before you winterize. Otherwise, it will set into that vinyl and it may not clean later. If you need a chemical to help you clean it, if it's tougher, we sell a chemical called TVX, Tile and Vinyl Cleaner. It'll come with a spray top, and it's safe. It breaks down in the pool water, so it's safe for your pool. And all you do is spray it on that water line, let it sit there for a minute. If you need to, you can get one of these vinyl liner scrub pads. You can scrub that little water line off to make sure that your liner stays as pretty as you can keep it, okay? The other thing that you're going to do on that first day is bounce the pool water. And bouncing pool water simply means I'm going to make my water not corrosive. So we're going to adjust the pH, the alkalinity, and the calcium. If you've been bringing water samples in here all summer and we tell you to add some uric acid or add some pH rise or calcium up, that's what we're doing. We're bouncing your water so that your pool is not corrosive. It's especially important to do it before you winterize, because the point of winterization is to not have to keep running the pump and filter and to not have to add any chemicals over the wintertime. So you get to kind of forget about the pool over the wintertime until you're ready to use it again next spring, okay? So we're going to bounce that water one last time, and then I'm going to go quickly through these different chemical systems. We're going to still be able to test your water, so when you're ready to winterize the pool, we can fill out a sheet step by step, including the winter kit of what you're going to add to the water to get it ready for winterization. So I'm going to go through it kind of quick. For those of you that use either the chlorine, well, let's start with chlorine, the chlorine system, okay? So you probably have a floater with tablets that floats in your pool, and you're using granular chlorine to shock with. You're going to remove that floater from the pool, and you are going to double shock that pool with 2 pounds of granular chlorine per 10,000 gallons of water. You are then going to grab you one of these winter kits, and you are going to add the entire contents of the winter kit to the pool and run it 12 hours. Okay? The same is true if you have the permasalt system. Okay? If you use this system, you are going to add, instead of the shock, you're going to add your bag of reactivate and your bag of initiate. Add your winter kit, run it 12 hours. If you have this system, the oxygen pool system, you're going to add your 2 scoops of Formula O per 10,000. And then you're going to add your winter kit, and you are going to run it 12 hours. Now these winter kits, they're good for any chemical system at all. What these do, this winter kit has a chemical in here called borate, tetraborate, that removes the carbon dioxide from the water. It takes away algae's ability to respirate so that you're actually cutting off its food source. We're doing 3 things when we winterize the pool that allow us to add chemicals once and not have to keep adding them. We're taking the carbon dioxide out of the water with our winter kit. We're taking away sunlight, so there's no sunlight hitting that water by putting a cover over it. And we're also stopping with that cover any additions of any additional organics like rain that comes in there. So when we do all 3 of those things, we can treat this pool once and then forget about it until, say, the end of March or so, okay? Inside this bucket, these buckets are good for any pool up to 15,000 gallons. That is anything through 24 round and anything through 18 by 33 oval. If you have a 27 or a 30 or a 33 foot round, you might get a couple of these to put in. There are 3 different chemicals in these kits. There's a big plastic bag full of powder in here. The bucket itself is full of powder, and then there's a little jar of a stain preventer in there. All 3 of the chemicals can go in at the same time. There's no certain order. You don't have to pre-dissolve the chemical. However, I do want you, after you add this, to brush the entire bottom of the pool to make sure that that chemical is stirred up into the water. And again, we're going to let it run 12 hours. Anybody using Pristine Blue? So Pristine Blue, again, is real easy. The same things you've been doing. You'll add your top-off dose of clean and clear. Top off your Pristine Blue. You want to get that copper up to 1.0 where it belongs. And then you're going to use the Pristine Extra or whatever shock that you normally use. Do 2 pounds per 10,000. Double that up. And then again, add the winter kit, run it 12 hours. Aquasil users, again, the same thing. You're going to add 1, 2, and 3. You'll top off your oxidizer. And I would do 1 gallon per 10,000, not the 1 pint per 10,000, the weekly. 1 gallon per 10,000. We'll add your regular dose of CDX, top off your sanitizer level to 50. And again, we're going to add 1 winter kit and run it how long? 12 hours, that's right. And that is all there is on your first day. So nothing really new at all. You're going to do all the housekeeping that you need to do. You're going to add your chemicals, and you're going to run that pump and filter to mix them up. Okay. What we're trying to achieve by winterizing our pool is we don't want to have any damage to our pump and filter. That is the key, okay? And so what we're going to do is we are going to end up disconnecting that entire pump and filter and draining the water out of it, okay? Obviously, before we start disconnecting hoses and stuff, we need to do something with our skimmer and our return, okay? We got to plug these up somehow, okay? The return's easy, okay? This is your return. You've got an eyeball. The eyeball has 3 pieces. The first 2 are pretty easy to get off. You got your collar here, and then you got the eyeball comes out. And those should be pretty easy to do. However, there is a 3rd piece. This piece right here also comes out, and it's going to be tight in there. It's going to be hard. So if you're careful, you could probably get you a pair of channel locks and not damage the threads and spin that out, and it'll be fine. There's also an inexpensive plastic tool that you can get. It's the eyeball removal tool. It fits into the little slots that are in here, and it makes it much easier to spin that thing out of there and get that insert out. So you've got 3 pieces, your insert, your eyeball, and the collar, and that makes what we actually call the eyeball of our pool. We're going to take that completely out. That leaves you with an 1.5 inch hole here, and we're going to plug that up with one of these 1.5 inch plugs. It's called the large expansion plug. If you guys flip your pages over, there's like a shopping list in the back. Those first 5 items are the things that you will probably need if you haven't winterized before. And this is the Winter Kit's one, obviously. This is another one, the large expansion plug. It just slides into the hole, and all you do is tighten up that little thumb screw, and it just seals it up just like that, okay? Now the skimmer is a little different because the skimmer actually has water inside it. And if this water freezes solid in here, you can risk breaking the skimmer. So what we're going to do is we are going to use what's called a compensator. This serves 2 functions. It's got a plug just like the return to plug the hole in the bottom of the skimmer, but it's also a soft, flexible bottle so that if the water freezes into the skimmer, it'll squeeze this bottle and not break the skimmer. And it installs real easy, okay? All you're going to do is take your basket out, shove this right in the hole in the bottom of the skimmer, twist it, make it nice and tight, and it'll lock in just like that. Any questions on that? That's the easiest thing to do. Does anybody have a light? Okay, I figured somebody's got to have a light. So some people will have a light instead of that return fitting, and it winterizes the same way. However, in the light, there's just the 2 pieces. Just the collar, just the eyeball, and then you get what's called the small expansion plug. Shove it in there, crank it down, and you're done. I do suggest taking the electrical off and storing that somewhere safe, too. Don't leave that out in the yard. Any questions on that? Well, we're going to keep rolling then. All right. So we've got our return and our skimmer winterized. At this point, we can disconnect all the hoses. So we are going to take out several different kinds of hoses here that you may have. Most of you probably have plastic hoses like this. And all you're going to do is loosen these clamps up, pull them off the fitting, rinse these hoses out and store them out of the sun. Should be good for next year, but you will replace these periodically, okay? Some of you may have hard plumb kits with this white flexible PVC. These will, on one side or the other, have a nut that you can unscrew. Again, you may need a pair of channel locks to loosen this up, but once you loosen it up, you can disconnect it from the pump and filter. And if you want to, you can leave these hoses hanging from the pool. This PVC is not going to get damaged by anything, so they can stay outside if you want to, okay? Then you also have a pump to filter hose that we're going to take out, and I'll show you that here. Most of you probably have this sand filter setup, Aqua Pro. It came in 150 and 300-pound version. They winterize the exact same way. We'll leave that down for now. Does anybody have the 100-pound waterway? Okay. Does anybody have a cartridge filter? Okay. All right, so let me show you this first. All right. Number 1, the pump to filter hose has collars on either side. We're going to loosen this up. Loosen your collar just like that. Spin it off. Take off your hose, rinse it off, store it wherever you got a place to store it, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the pump from the base, okay? And this Aqua Pro, you'll notice that it has a base that is bolted to the bottom. You don't have to mess with those bolts. There are actually screws on either side of this right here, little Phillips screws. There's one on this side, one on the other side. And all we're going to do, we don't even have to take them all the way out. Just loosen them up. And then you can pull this right off the base. Whoops. And this will stay on. So you look like that, okay? Put this off to the side. Now, this is where I'm really going to save you some money, because every spring, Bonnie and Clyde's will sell, depending on the year, 100 to 500 of these pots. The very first thing that'll happen if you have a night below freezing and your pump is not running, this strainer pot is going to break. It's not a warranty issue. It's not made wrong. It's that it's plastic and it's got water in it, and it freezes, it's going to break. And if it breaks on this pump, you're going to replace this whole piece. I think it's like $99. The waterway one I have over here, I think it's $79, okay? That is money that I don't mind selling every spring. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I don't want to sell any of you in this room any of those parts because it is completely unnecessary. Completely. Because let me show you how complicated it is to winterize this pump, okay? Here's what we're going to do to winterize it. We are going to spin this, take the lid off, take the basket out, whoops, and then all we're doing is dump the water out. That's it. And your winterizing on this pump is done. Now you can take this thing, throw it in the shed, the garage, the attic, wherever you got for it, and you're done. Nothing is going to freeze, nothing is going to break, and you should be able to start this up and run it next year with no problem, okay? Now you can also, if you need to leave this outside, you can, okay? But you will have to remove these drain plugs. You've got one here, and you've got one here on the side. Take those drain plugs out, and the water will come in and go out, and it won't hold any water at all, and it can stay outside. Now, one thing I don't want you to do if you leave it outside or even if you put it away, do not put a plastic bag around this whole thing. I see people get insulation in a bag and they leave it outside like that. Do not do that. This is an electric motor, and if you got any moisture at all inside that bag, it's going to rust the inside of your motor. So if you need to leave it outside, leave it just like you see it, okay? But better yet, get it out of the sun, put it away, and it will last you that much longer, okay? Put your plugs in your basket, and then you will have lost all this by next spring, and we have, no. All right, so here, take this for me. Now, the waterway pump here, does anybody have this one? Okay, so it's the same exact thing. Go ahead and set this up for me. Take the filter off. I'm going to show you one thing that's different. Don't lift it up by that. Okay, over here. Thank you. So to take this pump off the base, there are little plastic pins. You get you just a straight blade screwdriver, and these pins will pop up. There we go. Just pull them out, and then the whole thing will lift straight off the base, and just save your little pins. Whoops. Okay, and then again, do the same thing here. You're just going to take this lid off, take your basket out, dump it out, and you're done. Okay? Otherwise, everything's the same. Thank you. You've done this once or twice before, I know. Here, guys, take this away, please. Okay, bring me up the AquaPro filter there. Now, the waterway tank and both sizes of these AquaPro tanks are going to winterize the exact same way. Now, at some point before we actually disconnect it all and winterize, I want you guys to decide what you're going to do with the sand in your tank, okay? I highly recommend, especially if you have the 100-pounder or the 150-pounder, to dump the sand and put fresh sand in the spring, okay? That way you know for a fact that your filter is working every bit as good as it can, okay? If you have the 300-pound filter, that does have a lot of sand in it. You can probably get by with that one every other year, okay? I'm gonna show you how to change the sand in this, and when we get inside here, I'm gonna show you some other reasons why you might change it. However, if you don't want to go through that and you just want to leave it sit outside like it is, you can clean the sand with a chemical, okay? You're going to do this obviously anytime in a week or two before you're going to winterize the pool. You don't have to wait till the day before or whatever. But you can do this at any point between now and then, and you are going to do a simple backwash cycle. And then when you go to your backwash, what you're going to do is you're going to get you a bottle of Winterize. This is only if you want to keep this sand. If you're going to dump it, you don't need to do this step. But as you backwash the filter, slowly add the Winterize into the skimmer. And this is like an acid-based cleaner that will just strip all the debris off the sand that doesn't come out every time you backwash. Body oils, hairsprays, perfumes, lotions, suntan oil, all that stuff builds up in this filter. And it doesn't matter if your filter is only like a month old or it's 3 years old. When this sand sits in here dry, it is going to clump that sand. And come next spring, if you haven't cleaned it or done anything with it, it's not going to filter properly. It's going to form little tunnels through the sand, and you're going to have water flowing through your filter, but not really filtering. And so, you know, I have a lot of people, especially in the spring, with constant cloudy or constantly green water. It's usually caused by the filter just not doing the job it should be doing. Anytime your filter's not working as good, you're spending extra money and extra time trying to keep that pool clean, okay? Now let me show you, if you've cleaned your sand and you are gonna just leave this out and you are going to leave it outside, then all you have to do at that point is remove the drain cap off the bottom of the tank. And it's true with the waterway one, they have a cap, this one has a cap as well. So we're gonna take this drain cap off. This will keep the sand in the tank and drain the water out of the tank, okay? Now, let's go a little step further here. I wanna take this apart. Let's assume that you are changing the sand. Again, I recommend doing it, okay? What we'll do is, we're gonna take this valve off the top of the tank. And this has got a collar with a bolt on either side. And all we gotta do is remove the bolts. I'm gonna leave it just like that for now. And then you can lift this off and this will remove, okay? Now let's talk about what's inside this filter. The other thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this cap and we're gonna use the end of this cap as a little tool. Inside here, like I said, if you leave it the way it is right now, the water comes out and the sand stays in. However, if we wanna get the sand out, we use this cap and we're gonna insert it into this hole. And spin it, and what it's gonna do for us, it's gonna remove the part that holds the sand. See this piece? We take this out and now it's just a hole here. We can take a garden hose and run it in here and the sand will begin to drain out of here. Now if you've got a shop vac, okay, and a garden hose, you can easily suck that sand and water out of the top of this thing, and that's probably the easiest way to get the sand out. A lot of people don't have one, so what you'll do is you'll put your garden hose in here, let some of the sand run through the bottom. You can get your little cup or something and scoop it out through the top, just until you're comfortable enough to just lay this tank over and just get your garden hose and start rinsing the sand out right through the top. That sand has got organics in it. It's not gonna hurt the grass or the garden. You can spread it out in there, it'll be just fine, okay? Get all the sand out of there, and what that is going to leave you, what you'll see is this pipe that's in here. This is called a standpipe, and at the bottom of the standpipe, there's a bunch of little laterals, which I've already removed. When you reach in here, you can take these laterals out if you want to. You can take this whole thing out. Now, I do this to show you. These laterals are called snap lock laterals. To get them out, it's real easy. You don't need a tool. They just 1/4 turn and pull them out. Okay, there's 8 of them all the way around here. Now, the reason why I show you this is because things like hair, cottonwood, some of the bugs and leaves and debris that get into your filter, they don't all backwash out every time. They begin to percolate down through the bed of sand, and they end up going through the bed of sand. They end up at the bottom of your filter, okay? And when they collect on the laterals themselves, you can see if I have just this much debris on my laterals, I have now lost 25% of that filter's flow. So that filter is not going to do the same job as one that's completely clean. And there's no chemical I can sell you that cleans these laterals up. So by taking the sand out, you can actually reach down in here, remove those laterals, and you can get a toothbrush or steel wool or whatever you got and just clean those little splines out, put it back together, and that way come next spring, you know this thing is doing the job it should be doing, okay? Is there any questions on that? Okay. So the other reason why you might change your sand is because unless you're a lot bigger and stronger than I am, this thing's full of water and sand, you are not picking this thing up. But now, if the sand's out, all you're gonna do is just pick this thing up and you can put it in the shed of the garage with your pump, keep it out of the sun, and it will last that much longer. If you have to, you can leave these outside. I'd have you put the valve back on and put a trash bag over the tank. Not the pump, but the tank. Now on this valve, I can save you a little bit of money here too on this valve. Pressure gauges. I order these by the hundred. It's $10 or $12 that none of you have to spend every spring, okay? It removes by hand. Take the pressure gauge out. It always holds water in here. You cannot get the water out, so if it freezes, it breaks. Take it out, put it inside the house. The last thing that you'll do is take this valve and you put it into the Winterize position. In the Winterize position, I'll show you what it does. So inside this valve, there is what we call a spider gasket, and there's a flat plate that rides on top of it with a hole in it that determines which way the water flows, okay? And what we're doing by putting it in Winterize is we're lifting that disc up off the gasket. Just preserves that gasket and makes it work that much better and that much longer, okay? Again, it hopefully will save you money down the line. That is the entire winterization. You can put this back on. You can put your clamp back on. Like I said, if you want to leave it outside, you can. Otherwise, carry it away and put it away out of the sun. Thank you. And the waterway one is the exact same way. Go ahead and give me this one too, guys, will you? The waterway one, everything is the same, except for two exceptions. This one, there's a bolt and nut only on one side of the collar. Do not take this off. Just leave that alone. All you're going to do is you are going to get a hammer and a screwdriver, and you are going to pop this thing until it loosens this collar, and the collar will spin off. It's threaded. Spin the collar, and the valve comes off that way. Okay? Everything else is exactly the same. And then again, Winterize on the valve. Take your pressure gauge and save yourself $12. Take it out. Okay? The other difference that you're going to have on that one is that the laterals are not snap locked. They are threaded. So you're just going to unscrew these. Okay? And that's as easy as they are. But again, you can see that it does not take much debris, especially if you guys have dogs in the pool. It does not take much debris to clog this up. Okay? So that way you can clean it all out. You know it's going to work as good as it should. Okay, so this is our cartridge filter system. And again, this winterizes the same way. This is a waterway system, so it has the plastic pins that you will pop out to remove the pump from the base. It has a collar here that we will disconnect, loosen that up. And I've already taken the pins out, so we can take this right off. And again, no difference here. We're going to take the lid off, take the basket out, dump it over, put it away. That's the winterization of that. Cartridge filter. All we're going to do, and I don't know if you've done this before, you're going to lift these yellow tabs and we're going to spin this collar. And we are going to take the filter apart. The only difference you have is you are going to remove this element. You are going to use the filter blaster. It comes with a spray top, and you will spray this cartridge down. Let it soak for 5 or 10 minutes. If you own a cartridge filter, this tool is not expensive and it's almost necessary. You can hook this to your garden hose, 10 or 15 minutes, soak it with the chemical. Hook this to your garden hose, and this brush reaches in between the pleats and cleans this cartridge and restores it back to white. It's unbelievable. I use this on my spa cartridges, but I think it's less than 20 bucks. Clean that really well before you put it back in here. And then you can put the lid back on. If you have to leave your filter outside, you can wrap a trash bag over the whole thing to keep it out of the sun. Again, I don't suggest doing that with the pump, but with your filter. Or you can take this thing now and get it off my table. I mean, put it in your garage or shed. All right, so let me recap really quick here. So what we've done is we've bounced our pool water, we vacuumed our pool. If we have a water line, we've cleaned that. We have winterized our skimmer. We have plugged up our return. Does anybody have a light in their pool? Okay, good enough. We've disconnected all the hoses off our pump and filter. We have drained the water from our tank. We have taken the sand out of our tank, I hope, and then we've also taken the water out of our pump. So now it's time to deal with the pool itself. Actually, let's start here with our ladder system. Can you guys slide this over for me? Okay, guys, so this ladder system is made from a material that's durable enough that you do not have to remove it from the pool. I don't care if your pool freezes solid like 2020, nothing's going to happen to these steps, okay? Now, you all probably know that dirt and debris does collect underneath there. So at some point, and I would recommend the spring, but at some point you will move it and you will clean out from under there, okay? One thing I can tell you to help prevent that from building up down there is you have to constantly add water to the pool. If you get in the pool as you add water and just spray with a high pressure spray underneath there, that will help get that algae and dirt from building up down there. Like I said, this is durable enough to leave in the pool. However, we're going to cover the pool, so we got to get all this stuff off the top, okay? Now, one of the things that you may want to do now while the water's still kind of warm is we're going to take these handrails off. And so at the bottom of each one of these handrails, there are 2 screws that hold that handrail to the step. You cannot use a drill because you're under the water, so you're going to have to climb down at least to this bottom step and reach down here to remove these screws. And you don't want to do it when the water is 70 and below, okay? So we're going to take these screws out with our screwdriver. And I've taken one out on each one already. But it's all plastic, so it's not hard to do. They won't be that tight or anything like that. And the truth is even when you take these screws out, you can still use this system if you're still swimming right now. Come on. Take those screws out. Now we have also 2 screws right up here that we're going to take out. Take this little piece off. That will separate this. And now we can just take this and lift it up and move it away. Thank you. Let's see here. I'm going to use... Here we go. I'm going to use my drill for the rest of this. Now, your water level is probably going to be somewhere in this neighborhood, so to use the drill on this next step, you have to have a long bit. You can still use a screwdriver, but you have 4 screws in each of these flanges that hold this whole thing onto the step. And all we're going to do is remove those screws. And of course, I've done a few of them already. Oh, I did more than I thought. All right. And then we can just move this out of the way. And unless you got a big giant dog in your backyard that will chew on this stuff, again, you can leave it outside, you can leave it in the sun, nothing's going to happen to it. This part stays in the pool and it's fine, okay? That is the whole winterization of the steps. You guys, any questions on that? Okay. Once that's done, then we can go ahead and take care of our pool. Now we're going to treat our entire pool just like we treated our skimmer. So you remember back 2020 when it froze really, really hard freeze, okay? We want to prevent any ice from, if the pool were to freeze solid, then what can happen is that the ice can get tight enough to where it's actually pressing up and can damage the vinyl liner, okay? So just like we put that compensator into our skimmer, we are going to use a flotation in the pool itself to give us a place for the ice to expand towards the middle of the pool instead of out against the edges of the pool. Now, I am not trying to sell every possible thing I can sell in this store, okay? If you have an inner tube or something like that, any inflatable that you can tie off to the middle of your pool, that works just fine, okay? If you don't, these air pillows are not too expensive, somewhere in the $15 neighborhood. You use a 4x4 air pillow for a round pool and a 4x8 air pillow for a oval pool. And these are pretty convenient because they have little grommets on the corners that you can tie to. They got a pretty big opening here that you can blow them up with. When you inflate these, please do not blow them up with your mouth. You will be passed out at least twice before you're done, all right? We've got these little battery air pumps that you can use anywhere to blow these up. You can use your air compressor, your shop vac. You can even use a hair dryer if you have to. I've done that before as well too. And again, you don't have to blow it up perfectly tight or anything like that. Just get some air in there. And then you're going to tie a piece of twine or string to either corner. And then you can tie this off in the middle of the pool, and every pool has a place to tie to. There'll actually be a cap here, and underneath your cap you're going to have a space to run your cable through, and it'll come across the middle of the pool. Your air pillow will be in the middle, and then tie it off on the other side as well. And again, you don't have to spend a lot of time on that. You don't have to have this air pillow fully blown up. You don't have to have it tied off super tight. You don't have to have it exactly in the middle of the pool. You just don't want it to be able to blow to one side. So just get it out there somewhere in the middle. If it can stay there, you're fine, okay? I have a pool that's winterized outside that you can look at after we're done so you can see what I'm talking about. But you're going to blow that up, and that way if the pool does freeze, you're not worried about any damage to your liner, okay? Now, once the air pillow is in, we can go ahead and cover the pool. The covers are two colors, green and black. Black on one side, green on the other. The black will go down, the green goes up, okay? Now, as you do this, what you're going to do, I've done all of this stuff myself before. The one tip I can give you is try not to do this on a windy day. It's going to parachute you around the yard for a while. So what you're going to do, though, is you're going to lay this cover out on top of the pool. You might need some help or your brush to get it up over your air pillow. You're going to dome it up. And just so you guys know, that air pillow is not designed to keep water off the top of the cover. And if you get 4 of them, that won't work either. Okay, so we're not trying to keep water off the cover. We're just trying to prevent ice damage to the liner. So once you got the cover over the air pillow in the middle, you're going to bring it out over the edge of your pool. All of the covers will come with a cable and a turnbuckle. And we are going to thread this cable through the grommets on our cover. And you do that so that you see the cable. You can see there's a place where there's two grommets, a long area, and then 2 more. You want to see the cable on the long runs here. So you're going to run it under the cover, under the cover between the short run, and then outside the cover, and then inside the cover, all the way around the pool, okay? And when we come to the other end, we'll have 2 ends of our cable that we're going to just feed through our turnbuckle here. One end goes through here, and then the other end goes in this way. And then all we're going to do is just crank that cable. It'll tighten it up and hold this cover tight underneath the top of the pool. Is that going to be enough to winterize the pool? Will that keep the cover on? Yeah. It doesn't. I know you've done this before. So you put that cable on, you're going to go all the way underneath here. That alone is not going to keep that cover on the pool. What you are going to hear if you leave it like that is this noise. And you're going to hear that for months. And that noise is the noise of wind getting under here and slowly shredding your brand new cover, okay? We don't want that to happen. So what we do is we actually are going to add water to the top of the cover. We want to go 3 inches all the way around. And that water on top of the cover really is all you have to maintain over the winter time, okay? I do recommend as you add this water to the top of the cover, it's going to provide the weight that holds that cover down. But I recommend if you have Alkalinity Plus at home, add some Alkalinity Plus to that water, or some baking soda will work as well. Like I mentioned before, the leaves that sit on top of your cover, as they break down in that water, they are going to secrete an acid. They will eat up this cover. So if you add a little baking soda or Alkalinity Plus, it neutralizes that acid, and that won't be such a problem for you. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get 2 years out of these covers. They're warranted for like 8 or 10, but they're going to disintegrate. They're warranted for manufacturing defects, like the seams opening up, things like that. However, that's, it's not going to last 8 to 10 years, and I want to look you all in the eye and tell you that it will not last that long. We're wanting to get 2 out of it, okay? And so what we're going to do is we got the water on top of that cover to help prevent this noise. Some of you may live in an open area where you get lots of wind. That alone with the water and the cable still may not be enough to keep the cover on and you not to hear this noise all the time. So somebody smarter than myself has invented something called cover clips. And these clips are very handy if you live in an open or windy area, because you can actually clip the cover to the top of your pool as well. Now, not everybody has to do this, but a lot of people like doing it. These are not expensive. These are like 99 cents a piece. We have the blue ones for the steel top pools, and we have the black ones for the resin top pools. And all you do, I do recommend putting a piece of duct tape over your cover first so that you don't poke a hole, because these corners are kind of sharp. But all you're going to do is put that piece of duct tape on there, and then it's real easy to just clip tight, and now you're held on there as well. One, possibly two clips in between every post will help secure that cover on the pool. Okay? Any questions on that cover? All right. So let's talk about that water on top of the cover. That's the one thing that you will want to maintain over the course of the wintertime. When you first do this, you're going to probably add water periodically to keep that 3 inches on there, okay? But as the fall and winter progress, it's just going to fill up with more and more water. And you don't want to let that cover just fill with a couple of feet of water, okay? What's happening, number one is as the water fills on top of the cover, you're actually pressing water out from your pool. So you can theoretically have 2 feet of water on top of that cover, and when you uncover it, you're only going to have 2 feet of water in that pool. So that's just all that much more water and chemicals that you're going to need in the spring. So we want to periodically drain the water off the top of the cover, okay? The other thing that can happen, I should mention this to you, this can happen on the resin or the steel pools, that if you get enough weight on this cover, you can actually start to bend or warp your top seats. It'll pull and pull and pull and pull, and you can actually, you know, it won't, I don't think, break anything. I've never heard of that, but you can actually warp these things or bend these things. So we want to avoid letting the water just build up on there. There are several ways that you can drain the water off your cover. The easiest way is also the most expensive way. Big surprise. You can just buy a electric cover pump, and you just attach your garden hose. Anytime you want the cover to start draining, you just plug it in, and it pumps it off, no problem, really quick. Okay? If you don't want to spend that much money, you can buy a siphon pump. This is a white disc. It's called the Cover Saver. You leave it out there in the top of the cover. It's got a clear tube that hangs over the side, and it has a little pump-up mechanism, and you can start pumping that thing up, and it will start a siphon and siphon off for you. Again, guys, I'm not here to try to sell you everything. I am not the click it and forget it guy, okay? You can drain the water off the top of your cover. You don't have to spend any money at all. You can use a garden hose, okay? What you do is take one end of your garden hose and put it in the top of the pool. Take the other end of the garden hose, hook it up to your house, turn the water on, let it get all the air out of the hose, let it start to run in the top. Then turn the water off, disconnect the hose here at the hose bib, and walk over to, say, your neighbor's yard. Throw that hose down, and it's going to start draining off the top of that cover automatically, okay? Any questions on that? So a couple of things, that really is the winterizing of your pool, okay? I do want to mention just a couple more things. First of all, let's talk about this. This stuff. This is right out of my front yard. I dug it up this morning. This is mostly Bermuda, but you see these. This is nutgrass. This is the enemy of your above ground pool, okay? And most of you, almost everybody now, buys the ultimate pool bottom to prevent this from growing through your liner. And that is only effective for, well, it's effective forever. It's warranted for 3 years, 100%, and then it's prorated to 5 years. However, I have still seen this nutgrass grow up the side of a pool and then into the pool from the side of the pool, okay? It is unbelievable how much this will try to find some place to grow up. I have seen this grow through a crack in concrete and then through a vinyl liner, okay? It is really, really resilient stuff. If you have this around the edge of your pool on the outside, it is gonna try to tunnel into your pool, okay? The bottom that you have will probably protect you, probably, But after a few years, you may end up with a hole or a piece of grass growing through that liner. It can actually grow through that styrofoam cove wedge as well too. So the reason why I mention this is because not only because the nutgrass can damage your pool, but when you've got your pool and you've got grass growing up to it, I know what you're probably doing. The grass is growing right up to this pool, and you're getting your weed eater out and you're trimming it. Now this is all steel, and it all has several different coatings to prevent rust and corrosion. And every time you hit it with that piece of string, you're taking a little bit of that coating off, and you can end up with rust down here at the bottom of your pool. So I do recommend keeping all the grass away from the edge of the pool, 12 to 18 inches. Bark chips, stone, looks beautiful. You can plant any plants you want around there. Just keep it free of grass. That way you're not worried about the nutgrass, and you're not worried about having to trim around the steel pool, okay? So a real good idea. Now, if you see that stuff growing, you know that you have it in your yard, you know it's growing outside your pool, dig it up and treat that area around your pool with the, something I don't have anymore.
It's in front. It's on the Winterize in front.
Stop it. This is a granulated weed killer designed to kill nothing but nutgrass. Now, it can still damage other plants, but it is going to kill this nutgrass. And the reason why it works and Roundup and those things don't is that this granule gets raked into the soil. You wet it down, and when you wet it down, it gases off. And it gases into the soil and kills the nut that shoots these up, and that nut can be way down, okay? So you can spray it with Roundup, and it'll kill this. And a week or two later, you're going to have new ones growing right back up. But this stuff will get rid of it, so if you have this stuff, dig it up, rake this stuff in, wet it down, and that way you'll keep that away from your pool, whether you have that bottom or not, okay? It used to be, before we were using that plastic, we would have, you know, several dozen people patching their liner the first year because they had this grass growing through. And I know I've had one or two this year already. That happens every year, but I don't want it to happen to y'all. So spring and fall is when that stuff spreads, so that would be the time to do it, okay? Lastly, let's talk about spring. So we talked about how to put this cover on. I can give you some tips on how to take the cover off as well too. Number one, if you want to uncover your pool, you want to decide that a couple days in advance. Do not just wake up one day and say, oh, it's sunny, I'm getting that cover off that pool right now. I'm going to call a bunch of my friends. There's only a few inches of water on top of there, and I know if we just gather up and we can throw that cover off, we don't have to worry about anything else. I am here to tell you that will never, ever work. And the reason why I know that is because I've done that myself, okay? And I'm going to show you what happens. So you're going to be right here, and you're going to have 4 or 5 big, strong men, big, strong women, it doesn't matter, and you're going to all gather around, and you're going to unhook the whole thing, and you're going to gather it up, being real careful, keeping all that debris in one place, and you're going to get to the one last section you have, and you're going to go to heave it over the side, and this is what happens. Bloop! And all of that debris ends up going into your pool, and you've just cost yourself hours worth of work pumping that, getting that stuff out of there, okay? So the way you really should do it is say, hey, it's going to be nice this weekend. A couple days before that, drain all the water off the top of the cover. Let that stuff dry out. You can get your air blower or your big brush and brush the leaves and debris off the top. No worries about it going in the pool, and then easily disconnect that cable and your clips and take this off, okay? Now, the other thing that you want to do to preserve this cover is lay it out in the driveway or something, rinse it off. But before you put it away, make sure that it's completely dry. If you fold this up, it's still a little bit wet, and you put it away, you're going to buy another cover the next year, okay? Make sure it's completely dry, fold it up, get 2 years out of it. Any questions at all? You guys are good, way better than the first seminar. So listen. Yes, sir? Yes, that's a good question. So normally people start swimming. When do we open the pool up? Normally people are ready, adults, in May maybe when it starts to get warm enough. Kids are ready to go in at any time. However, you need to get the pool open by end of March. That's when it gets warm enough to where you need to get more chemicals in the water at that point. So end of March, you're going to take your cover off, and you're going to go in reverse. You are going to put your hoses back on, do your pump and filter. Consequently, end of March is when we have our big parking lot sale. Sand for the filter, steps, drain plugs, pressure gauges. We have all that stuff for you. That'll mostly is on sale that time as well too. So from the end of October, end of March, you're free of the pool. So any questions at all on any of that? Again, I really want to thank you guys for the purchases you've made and for coming today. Now, if you want to get this stuff while it's on sale and still fresh in your head, on the back of your deal, there is a sheet. The first 5 items I think are something that everybody who hasn't done this before will need. There's some other items that you may get. You don't have to go into the store and find this stuff. Just go up to the registers. We got 3, 1 in the back and 2 on the side here. Tell them what you want. They'll ring you up. They're going to give you a receipt. You're going to walk out here, and there'll be 3 guys out here that will load all that stuff for you. Okay? Again, thank you guys very much. Have a great day. Try to stay out of the heat in fall, believe it or not. You're welcome.